So if you're like a lot of folks, you are probably still basking in the fact tax season is over. No more number crunching for yet another year.
But what about all that paperwork that's left behind? You know, the W-2s, the receipts, the bank statements. Do you need to hang on to all that stuff? Well, today we find out what documents to toss in the filing cabinet and which ones to toss in the trash.
Now that tax season is over, it's tempting to toss all that paperwork too. But not so fast. Some documents may be important down the line. Federal and state income tax returns should be kept for a minimum of 7 years. The IRS can audit a return at random up to 3 years from the date it was filed. And taxpayers will also need supporting documents like W-2 forms, investment purchase statements, and credit card bills to prove deductions if necessary. It's easy to save returns when they're filed electronically. Those still filing on paper should scan and save all documents to cut down clutter. What can get tossed? Receipts that don't have anything to do with a tax return. Pay stubs, since that information is on a W-2. Monthly investment statements. And loan documents for items you no longer own. Certain important items should always be kept, preferably under lock and key, including birth and death certificates, estate planning documents and wills, marriage licenses and divorce papers, military discharge documents, and Social Security cards. For discarded documents, shred them to avoid identity theft. Look locally for free shredding events, which tend to happen during this post-tax season time of year.
And maybe you don't have a shredder. According to techjaws.com, you can also soak personal documents in water. That should make them difficult to read. So what about your personal information online? Well, Jimmy has more on how you can protect that too.
You probably don't need to be told how dangerous it can be to post your personal information online. We hear story after story, day after day. Did you know that social media can even affect your credit score? And your personal information that may be floating online goes way beyond just your name and phone number. Our next guest knows a thing or two about cyber safety. As a matter of fact, Tyler Cohenwood is a cyber branch chief with the Department of Defense, and we're happy to have her with us today. Tyler, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, Jimmy, thank you so much for having me.
Now, let me ask you this question. You were quoted once as saying, "We live in a world where your online reputation is just as powerful and important as the one you have in real life." Why do you believe that's the case?
That is absolutely true, because you can make a good impression on someone in your work life, but then you go home and you can kind of do whatever you want. Mm-hmm. But when you post stuff online, you get a much more accurate perception of who a person really is because they're much more honest. You can get to know their politics, who their friends are, everything about them.
Okay. Well, what kind of personal information do you think is really readily available out there that we don't even know about?
Well, a lot of it is stuff that you choose to self-disclose, and you might not even know that you're doing this. So maybe you want to keep your politics, from your employer, but and maybe you say nothing about your politics.
Right.
But whenever someone with a particular topic posts something, you choose to like it. So it's very easy to glean this type of information. You might want to keep the fact that, when your birthday is hidden. But people are going to notice when everyone's telling you happy birthday. And if someone is trying to steal your identity, what do they need? Your birthday, an address, and your social security number. And a lot of that information is between self-disclosed information or then public records. It's very easy to attain that information.
It's hard to find anybody these days that's not on social media. Is it true that my friends could impact my credit score?
Jimmy, it is absolutely true. So companies are getting into this game right now where they also know that your social media presence is going to be a very realistic portrayal of who you are as a person. And that friends of a feather flock together concept. If you're associating with and friends with people who have bad credit scores, spend well above their means, or are involved in maybe some unsavory activities, that's going to reflect on you as well, because the assumption can be made that you might not be able to pay your bills too. And it's not just mortgage companies, it's not just banks, it's insurance companies too, and other companies are getting into the game.
Okay, Tyler, I got to confess something here. I've got a son I'm extremely proud of. I've posted online pictures of him playing Little League, him playing the drums. That's not a good idea, is it?
Well, And it's not. You have to find that happy medium of being able to post information about your kids as they grow up for your friends and family, but you also want to do it in a way that's safe and secure.
Okay.
So perhaps, go into the camera setting and turn off the thing that says, EXIF data.
Right.
And EXIF data is information about the photograph that anyone can really very easily pull out that gives the exact geolocation of where that photo was taken. But posting pictures of your kids' Little League is great. Turn off the EXIF data, but posting issues about your child, such as, my child keeps failing their history exams, what am I going to do? Or, maybe my child, I think they have an eating disorder. Well, future recruiters, college boards are going to have access to this information, and it could really harm your child later on down the line.
And everything lives forever on the web too, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. You can try to get something removed, and even if there's a legal issue, you can get something removed, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be removed. It's like that old shampoo commercial, and so on and so on and so on. You might be able to get the original one removed, but how do you know 400 people haven't downloaded it? You have to make the assumption. It's just like if I were to walk into a room and give every single person a photograph that I wouldn't want other people to see,
Right.
well, they now kind of own that photograph and they can do whatever they want with it. I'm not a lawyer, but that's just logic.
That makes sense, doesn't
And
it?
it's the same thing.
Same thing.
Yes.
Tyler Cohenwood, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Cyber Branch Security with the Department of Defense and author of Catching the Catfishers. Now, if you'd like to read more about what Tyler just had to say, go to delmarvalife.com and click on the show tab. So, a lot of great advice from Tyler. How about if we take it a step further, though? Have you ever thought what would happen to your online accounts if you or maybe someone that you loved died? Well, it's certainly not something that we want to think about or that we like to think about, but would your loved ones have access to all of those accounts and precious pictures? Here's how you can overcome that digital dilemma.
Well, the day before he was up and walking around, and then 24 hours later he was in a full coma.
When Shannon Donahue's father, Jim, slipped into darkness, he took all of his passwords with him.
He did everything online. All the bills came to his email.
So the mortgage, electric, gas, credit cards, all on hold.
It kind of just added an extra level of stress, I guess, to everything that was going on.
Studies show the average person has 25 online accounts, from social media to banking and cell phone accounts. Without a password, online companies enforce the privacy policies you agree to. For example, your Yahoo email. Contents within your account terminate upon your death. Facebook says it's a violation of our policies to log into another person's account, meaning you could lose sentimental photos. One representative for online companies says one of the greatest challenges they face is federal law.
That actually forbids us from giving access to anyone who's not authorized.
So the surprising news for most people is that a lot of that stuff is lost when they die, and that loses real value for family members, sentimental and financial value.
Karen is working to help families. She's a part of a committee that's working to draft a bill to make it easier to transfer a person's online accounts and digital property. But until the privacy policies change, Karen says consider sharing your passwords. She suggests writing down your usernames and passwords, storing them on your computer, and encrypting the file. Karen says put the information in a safety deposit box or store them on a USB flash drive. You can also sign up with an online storage service, but some do charge a fee. Donahue created a list and put it in a safe place for her mom.
In the event something happens in the future, she knows where to go to find it.
Now, Shannon's father did recover, but by then the family had figured out the passwords by accessing his email from his cell phone. Then they had to click on Forgot Password for about a dozen different accounts and create new ones. That is a very time-consuming process. Now, speaking of time, former Second Lady Lynn Cheney spent years studying one man who is now an important figure in American history. She joins us next to tell us why and what she's done with the information. Plus, Lynn weighs in on what it's like living in the spotlight when family spats go public. A little later on, we are in the Delmarva Life kitchen whipping together a bisque that is loaded with fresh flavors. Plus, Rachel Ray will also show us how to use a few fresh flavors to get one green, groovy dip. But first, we've been talking about protecting your identity. Our friends from Sussex County Federal Credit Union have a few other safeguards that can also help. Here's this week's tip.
On behalf of Sussex County Federal Credit Union, I'm Lindsay Coverdale with this week's Dollars and Cents tip. Identity theft is one of the fastest growing crimes in America, happening approximately once every 3 seconds. Reduce your threat of becoming a victim by implementing a few simple steps to safeguard your identity. First, reduce the amount of personal account information that you have mailed to you. Consider using e-statements to receive your bills and financial statements. All too often, this paper form of this information is carelessly discarded in the trash and taken by dumpster divers. Secondly, only visit reputable sites online. Viewing unsecure sites could increase the threat of malicious malwares and viruses. Third, when shopping, use a credit card when possible. The liability and reimbursement policy is better on a credit card than on a debit card. Fourth, obtain your complimentary credit report once a year. This will allow you to review and confirm your information on the report to ensure you have not been a victim of identity theft. With help from Sussex County Federal Credit Union, we can help you review and understand your credit report, as well as provide safety measures to help monitor your accounts. Together, we can achieve more.